Choose to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man.
Later, the doctors in Dallas were presented with the autopsy report, which said that there was no entry wound to the throat. Actually, the autopsy doctors did not see that wound. They claimed that because the tracheotomy had been made horizontally through the wound, that they did not see any sign of an entry wound to the throat. They claimed, instead, that there was a shot that went through Kennedy's upper back or lower neck, and that it exited through the throat. But they didn't actually see any evidence for that in the throat. They did see an entry wound in the back, but they were not able to track it more than a very short distance. In their examination, it was a shallow wound that really didn't go anywhere.
Doctors in Dallas and at Bethesda Naval Hospital in Washington, D.C. gave conflicting descriptions of Kennedy's wounds. Dallas doctors all reported a massive hole in the right rear portion of Kennedy's head. The Washington, D.C. doctors described the hole near the top of the head.
There is an ongoing conflict between what the Dallas doctors saw and reported versus what the autopsy doctors in Bethesda, Maryland saw and reported. There's another line of evidence also for this shot to the right front, and that comes from one of the technicians at the one of these technicians described how he saw a small hole in the right forehead near the hairline. He had to plug this hole to keep the embalming fluid from coming out. That's pretty striking. So we have multiple lines of evidence: the x-rays, the photographer, Tom Robinson. We have even some clues from Parkland itself that there was a bullet entry wound in the right forehead. So we have this whole sequence of events strongly suggesting, particularly the x-rays, that there was a shot to Kennedy's right forehead from the front. So none of that information, none of that evidence was in the official autopsy report, and it was not in the Warren Commission report.
Mr. Nicoletti and I had fired approximately at the same time as the hit started forward, then it went backwards. And when I would have to say that his shell struck approximately 1,000th of a second ahead of mine.
So I'm quite convinced today that Kennedy was in fact hit twice in the head. Once from the right rear, just as the official report says, but then after that, he was hit a second time in the head from the right, the bullet passing right at the hairline above his right eye. So we have, that's probably the major disagreement on the headshots, that there were two instead of one in the Warren Commission report, and that one of those shots to the head came from the front.
Further evidence from an article by Dr. David Mantic sheds new light on the case and support Files' claim that he was the shooter. Mantic claims that the x-rays of Kennedy's brain and skull fragments indicate traces of mercury. Files says he fired the fatal shot with a mercury round. Furthermore, Files' confessions came before Chauncey Holt's revelations about driving Nicoletti to Dallas. So it is impossible for Files to have drawn upon Holt's story or Tosh Plumlee's account of flying Johnny Roselli and his mission to abort the assassination. Files could not have either spoken to them or read their confessions. Files' story is based on his own memories about the assassination, and it is corroborated by both Holt and Plumlee. This cannot be a coincidence.
Order your DVD copy of this show. Go to ikilljfk.com. Order now.
Where do you spend the most time sitting?
Facility at Stateville without me knowing. I said, well, wait a minute. And he swore up and down there were FBI agents that came to visit him. Well, I thought I finally, I got him now. I've got him in a lie. Come to find out that, yeah, in fact, they interviewed him. I wanted to catch him so badly. I wanted to catch him in a lie. And he was telling the truth.
Perhaps my 40-year friendship with Jimmy. I've never directly tried to catch Jimmy in a lie. I had no need to. He was a friend that came forward and over time has told me numerous things, none of which has ever been countermanded, none of which was ever proven wrong.
Lee Harvey Oswald, everybody plays him up to be a nut job and everything else, but the man was very intelligent, had a very high IQ. He was very quiet, self-centered. Lee Harvey Oswald was not a boaster. He was not a party man. He didn't run around drinking or cabareting or none of those things. Lee Harvey Oswald led a very close and self-secluded life. And for the people, a lot of times, what they've said about him is totally untrue. His plot was to plant evidence to mislead everybody. And I don't believe that Lee Harvey Oswald had any inkling that his life was in danger whatsoever. Lee Harvey Oswald never fired a shot.
I always felt a sympathy for Oswald. And I just don't feel it's right that he would be, or his children, should be stuck with that stigmatism, that's all.
So hard to hide the real facts behind it too, that I think right now the count has gone up to 102 people have had one kind of mysterious death or another that were related to trying to get out the truth about the Kennedy assassination.
After reviewing all this information, I must admit that I tried to hold myself independent of my emotions. I counseled Zach to do the same. But it is difficult to so insulate yourself that the humanity within me and within Zach are hurt. I'm hurt. And it's a difficult thing to mentally deal with. But I can only see the solution for all of us is the truth, the facts.
When the government investigates who assassinated our precious president, then we find out. And at the very least, if we can't find out, we tell the American people what we did find out during the course of the investigation and the reasons why we weren't able to find out exactly what happened. And that should have been done, and it wasn't done. And since the government was involved in trying to find it out, it remains very important that the truth be told to the American people.
The shell casing that I fired at John Kennedy, when I took it out of the weapon, is one of those moments when you feel like you're above everything else. I did not look back over my shoulder. I did not run. I didn't stand around. I just carried a natural gait and proceeded to exit. That's just like a businessman walking away from lunch. How do I feel about death? To me, it's just another new adventure. I couldn't kill anyone. When my dog had to be put to sleep, my wife and one of my top right-hand men had to take the dog to the vet because I didn't have the heart to do it. I only have one person to judge me, and that's when I die. A lot of people may find this hard to believe, but I have never read anything on the Kennedy assassination because I was never interested in it. I never chose the figures. Somebody else said they was wrong, said they did wrong. Just followed the orders. To me, it was like taking out the garbage.